California coming in with challenge success. So every year is a little different. And again, this year is very different in the fact that we've had to do it on Zoom, but we really appreciate you calling in this morning and being on the Zoom and being open to get some new information, especially this time of the year as our topic is about parenting in a pandemic. We are very fortunate today to have Sula Herreyes with us from the McNulty Group. It's a counseling and wellness group out in St. Petersburg. We've had a relationship with them for the past few years as they have been working with our students and some families. And we have loved how they have presented their thoughts and ideas, and we were excited that they were willing to come this morning and share their thoughts and ideas with you all. So our presenter, Sula, is a licensed mental health counselor, and she's very qualified. She's also a mother. And I love what she wrote. Says, I will help you overcome the obstacles in your life that are keeping you from having the life you deserve. And she likes going forward with that kind of a journey. And so we have collected questions, and a big thank you to Angela Munson on our end, who has been working to get this put together. Also, Anna DeFelice, who has been working with the Parents Association. And this is dear to her heart. She loves these kind of informational, educational events. And so with that, we have received some questions from many of you, and Sula has had those so that she can, throughout her talk, be able to answer those questions. And so to that, I will turn this over to Sula. Well, I'm so happy you're here.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. Again, I am a mother, and I do have 3 teenagers right now who are home. So I want you guys to understand that I know it from a parent's point of view and as a professional. Throughout my career, I have stayed home. So I have been a stay-at-home mom, and I've been a working parent as well. Right now, I have a daughter who is high risk, so I have been home since March doing therapy like this. So I completely understand the Zoom fatigue and all the questions that you guys came up with for me. First and foremost, whatever we talk about today, I want you guys to understand that one size does not fit all. I think that this is the main issue that people are having with COVID, because a lot of the questions that were given to me were centered around the fact that everyone has a different outlook on it and everyone has different rules that their family follow. So first and foremost, I think the most important thing is to figure out for yourselves and your family what you're comfortable with and relay that to your children. Let them know in a very clear way. And there are different levels of risk. And a lot of places have been opening up now, doing various things. So each family has to decide. And when there's another family that doesn't have the same things that they're following, it can be a little bit difficult, okay? But the basic thing is you need consistency. It should be whatever rule that you're having for one event should be the same thing. So kids aren't saying, well, how come we can go over to this person's house and we can't go to that person's house? How come we can attend this and we can't attend that? Be very clear with your rules. And if there is something where the children feel like they are being shorted because everyone else can go, come up with an alternative. Find something else that they can do with their friends. And I'm going to give you guys some examples of that, okay? First, there are things that you can do within the community. A lot of the places, I got a couple questions about things that are like sports or different events. There are a lot of things within the community as far as either your church or a rec center, or we're all still functioning. I know it doesn't seem like we are, but just like the schools, everyone else is still functioning. And there is, if you do reach out to these places, especially, I got one question from somebody saying that they were new to the community. We may not be fully operational, let's say a rec center or a church but they are doing other things to supplement. So there are things that you can do. You just have to look for those things. The second thing that I want to talk about today is how the parents are taking COVID and how they're presenting there. And I don't want to get too psychobabble, but how's the energy of the house? What are you doing? How are you coming home and talking about it? How are you disseminating your information? Is everything more serious of we can't go here, we're going to die, or we can't do this, and the TV's on all the time and the social media and things are going on? Because your kids are learning from you. Whatever it is that you are coming home and talking to them about, and whatever your energy is within the home, is how they are perceiving this whole thing. What also, as far as you and your partner, I work with a lot of couples. So sometimes they're not on the same page as far as COVID. One of the main things is don't belittle your partner. Make sure that if your children are coming to you and asking you questions, you are both on the same page. You both have the same rules as far as where they're going and what they're doing. It's not, oh, well, if I ask dad, he'll take me here instead of mom. And then you both, because it's very disheartening to the child and they don't understand why mom is being stricter than dad. And then the children will internalize that. Okay. The second thing, or the third thing I want to talk about is anxiety. I had a lot of questions about anxiety. So I'm going to give you all a little bit of a tutorial about it. We had questions about anxiety currently, and we had questions about mental health when the pandemic is over. Okay. The main thing about anxiety that I want you to know with your children is that they need to learn how to self-regulate. Whatever it is, whether it's a situation right now or it's a situation in test anxiety. I do a lot of test anxiety work with people. They need to know how to regulate themselves. And the first thing that I want to show you guys about that is something that I use with even adults. Okay. So I can't do the share screen right now. Can everybody, I don't know if you guys can see that. Let me turn my brightness down a little bit. On a scale of 1 to 10, I want you all as adults to think of the moment that you were having your most anxiety. There's always a, oh my God, this is the moment where I had my highest level of anxiety. That is your 10, okay? Your children need to learn that everything is not, and you guys still can't see it. So what I use is, I use a thermometer and it's from 1 to 10. Your children sometimes react as everything is a 10, but everything is not a 10. They may say to you, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Everything is not a 10. So when you're talking to your children, say to them, how on a scale of 1 to 10, how are you feeling with this right now, whether it's COVID or tests? And if they say, oh my gosh, I'm at a 7, 8, or 9, that's when you have to start using some techniques that I'm going to talk to you about. If the child starts to go, well, I'm at a 7, and you can remind them, well, is this as bad as last week? Or, is this as bad as when we couldn't go to that one soccer game you wanted to go to? Is this, and they will start mentally thinking about that and going, it wasn't as bad. And that alone will lower their anxiety. The more they do this, the lower their anxiety will be overall. I have clients all the time who text me and say, I'm at a 7, can you help? I'm at a 4, I'm at a 6. So the more that they learn to do this, in the end, it will alleviate their anxiety. The 2 things that you can do for anxiety, number 1 is distraction. Distraction is really important because what it does is it makes the brain focus on something else. And I'm going to give you guys an example of this. This is an example I use with adults, and I mean adults, executives, parents, everything. And I use it with kids. If I had to ask you right now, all of you, and you all are going to laugh and you're going to think she's really, if I had to ask you right now to name the 7 dwarfs from Cinderella, how many of them could you name in your head without having to go over it again and again? Just think about it. Most people can get to 5. Some people can get to 6. Everyone always goes, I can't remember that 7th one. I have to remember it. And I'm literally, I can see you guys' faces and I can see you all thinking about it. Okay. This is a very simple thing that you can do with your kids, because what it does is all of that energy that your mind is using for the anxiety, it turns it to what in the world is that last one? Oh my gosh, what I like what? And this de-escalates you. Besides using the 7 dwarfs, I have used the 50 states. Start naming the 50 states. The only way it doesn't work, I always put this out there, is if your child knows there was a song apparently in history class that was taught. If your kid knows this song, it's not going to work, okay? It's not going to work with a reindeer either because there's a song for that too. Anything that you can get your child to start naming in that moment that will distract them, I say Disney princesses, Star Wars characters, anything will work in bringing your child's anxiety down. The other thing that you can do for anxiety is you have all of this nervous energy. They need to get it out, because that's why when you see children who have a high level of anxiety, it's because each day they're not getting that nervous energy out. So anything that you can do, whether it's exercising, even baking, cooking, something to get them actually doing physical things, will get them to lower their anxiety. So with the pandemic, let's talk a little bit about having balance, okay? There are 4 areas that I concentrate on for balance: emotional, intellectual, physical, and spiritual, okay? And let's start with the physical first, because I got a lot of questions on sleep routines and things like that. I always ask parents, how are you modeling behavior? And I know it's hard because we're all going through this hard time, but if your child's rolling out of bed, if you're on a virtual and your child's rolling out of bed at 7:55 and their class starts at 8 o'clock, they're not going to start out the day right, okay? Are you doing things that are going to, when you're having those breaks during the day, are you utilizing them to the best of your ability? Your child is wanting from you things as far as reassurance about the pandemic. One of the things that you can do during the day is have things planned out. Don't be the parent that when your child's, it's time for lunch, you're just looking around going, okay, what do we have? What do we have? They need that consistency. They need that structure, okay? One of the other questions that I got as far as physical symptoms was gaming, okay? How do we control the gaming at the end of the night? So we started with the morning routine, getting up early and really modeling a fun breakfast and everything for the kids. In the evening time, what are your evening routines? I know we're all tired from COVID and I know we're all tired from our Zoom meeting, but what are you doing as a family for your evening routine? Is it just everybody's in their room on their phones and whatever, and then they just go to sleep whenever they go to sleep? Or is it something that you can do as a family to incorporate? Let's take all of the controls, let's take all of the phones at a certain time, and we all have a scheduled routine of what time we're going to bed. The other thing that I've given to parents as far as like gaming in the evening is, what time are their friends going to bed? We're always going to have, no matter what, okay? You're always going to have that 1 or 2 kids that their parents don't care and leave them up till 4 o'clock in the morning, okay? That's always going to happen. But just like you would have a play date and you would arrange a play date and you would communicate with the parent, communicate with the parents of the other kids that are gaming and say, what are you doing for your limits? And all of you get on the same page so that whatever one child is doing, the other child is doing together. And like I said, you're always going to have that one parent who's going to just be like, I let my child at night, or I work at night and I can't. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the majority of kids that you're talking to, okay? The other thing is spiritual. And when I say spiritual, I'm not just saying this because I'm obviously talking at St. Stephen's School. I would do this with any other. It's not just about your spiritual awareness as far as God and all that. One thing that's been taken away from us with COVID is our feeling good about doing something for others. Whenever we have some kind of a volunteer thing, even if it's for something for the high school kids where it's, I have to do it for Bright Futures hours, or I have to do it for this, or I have to do it for that. Yeah, they kick and scream to get there. But once they're done with that, they feel good about themselves. We haven't had anything where it's feeling good because we're reciprocating things. So if there's anything that you can do to help other people, and I don't mean, yes, we can't go volunteer at places, but is there anybody in the family? Is there any elderly person? Is there something where your child can reach out with cards, letters, anything? Is there somebody within like a neighborhood thing that you guys could do, cook something, bring it over, drop it off, something to make the kids feel like they're doing actual service work. Okay. After that, emotionally, let's talk about that. With emotional, there are always positive and negative coping skills. Okay. And anything can be a positive or a negative coping skill. And I'll give you an example. People say, well, what about talking to friends? Yeah, that's a positive coping skill. Unless your child is a child that has either been bullied or relies too much on social media for validation. Okay. So when we talk about positive coping skills, I want you guys to think of things that your child has for strengths and weaknesses. Okay. What we want to do with COVID is we've all been there where we're just complaining about how everything is going horrible and how everything is going bad. We can't do this, we can't do that, we can't do that. There are things that you can do. Each child, like I said at the beginning, this isn't one size fits all. What works best for your child? In therapy, we call it their currency. What is your child's currency? What do you know that will make them feel good about themselves? What have they enjoyed over the years? What is, as a family, have you guys enjoyed doing over the years? And now I'm going to bring it back to being the stay-at-home mom when I was a stay-at-home mom. We have all been through, yes, we can't have birthday parties right now, but we have all been through having birthday parties for our kids where we were on Pinterest and we were here and we were there and we were planning all the little details. We can't do that anymore for birthday parties, but what you can do it for is their time when they're at home. And now I'm speaking to the more of the younger elementary school kids. Okay. If your child is a child that likes to be creative and likes to interact and be social, figure out and plan ahead. What are the teachers teaching for that week? Okay. Let's say they're teaching something about the solar system or something about the ocean. There are things that you can do with your child to make them feel more active. You can, I've suggested to clients, you can have them decorate their room for every theme that's going on with their schoolwork. Okay. You can have them cook something with you that has a theme. If it's something with nature and they're studying something, take them outside. The disconnect with COVID is we're all home and it feels like we have no purpose just sitting. We're all looking at Zoom calls. The children are looking at Zoom calls. If you get them engaged and interactive with whatever it is that's going on at school and at home, they will feel like they have some purpose. Okay. With decorating your room, change it up every single week. It doesn't have to be expensive. Like I said, I was a stay-at-home mom. I always say, go to the dollar store. They have tons of things. I'm sure all the parents have construction paper at home. I'm sure they have everything that they can need to get their children more actively involved in making the house feel like it's not just a house. Okay. The other thing is with intellectual, let's talk about school. Okay. A lot of the questions I got were about focusing on school and being motivated for school. Okay. So I want you all to look at this as each child is their own person. They need to take control and feel like they have some ability to make decisions when it comes to their education. And I know you guys are going to say, well, they just get their work and that's it. What can they control? Number one, they can control which assignments that they do first. Sit down with them and say, well, I see you have a choice of these assignments. Which one? And ask their opinion so you validate them. Which one do you feel like we need to tackle first? How long do you think that one's going to take? And have a discussion with them. Make them feel like they're part of the process and the decision making. The second thing is when you have your child's trust and they think something is hard, validate that feeling too. Yeah, this is a little bit difficult, but we can work on it together. Okay. It does seem pretty confusing, but I know that you're really good at this and this and this. Involve the children in giving themselves small rewards. Okay. Make it a game. If they have to memorize something, if they have to do something. Because what the kids are finding now is they're staring at a screen all day and they're literally going from one assignment to another assignment to another assignment to another assignment. That part we can't control. What we can control is what happens after school, okay? And the other thing is if the children make a mistake, because right now we have very high expectations of our students. And I got a couple questions about that we have a high expectation level of them with not a lot of support. And I don't mean the school, because obviously you guys are doing a great job with all this stuff, but I mean support systems as far as resources for schoolwork. And with that, the resources that the child needs to have are not only at school. We need to think about what can we do at home to help the children. If something is too hard, talk to the child about it, and literally don't come to them in a negative tone. I see you haven't done this and this and this and this and this. If your child is a good student normally, there's a reason. There's always a reason. When you talk to your children about their assignments, make sure that you are aware of what the assignments are supposed to be. Don't be one of those parents where you not checking up on things and then all of a sudden you get an email from a teacher. Because the other thing is the children, they're internalizing right now everything that's going on around them with COVID. So if they're missing one little thing on one day and another little thing on the other day and then the third day another, and they're not asking you because number one, they see you stressed because you're doing work from home, or you're out all day with work and you come home and you seem so tired and you're giving off that negative energy. Or number two, they think that I'm just going to get in trouble if I ask, I'm supposed to know this. They're not going to speak up and they're not going to open up to you. So when you have those conversations, engage them in a positive way and say, it must be hard to have to do science at home without a lab. And then when you're talking to them about those things, find out what they're feeling comfortable with and what they're not. I've had kids who've come into my office and literally like this and said, my mom always thought I was really good at math and I'm doing horrible this year because of the Zoom. There are certain things that we're not going to be able to help them with when it comes to technology. So what can we do otherwise? What are their strengths? Again, I keep pressing this on. What are their strengths and their weaknesses? Focus on the things that they are strong on. Talk to the teachers. I talk to a lot of teachers. They're always extremely helpful when it comes to my child is not understanding this. My child is not really good with this or that. But when you advocate for your child, make sure that it's in a way that the child feels like they're part of the process. Because what's going to happen is the child's self-esteem is going to go down if mom and dad are always going and talking on their behalf. Ask them, well, if you didn't turn in an assignment or you didn't do something right, did you talk to your teacher? Did you email your teacher? This is one of the biggest things with children who have any kind of ADHD. They do not advocate for themselves because ADHD kids know how smart they are. They know that they could do it, but there's that disconnect right there. And that disconnect keeps them from advocating for themselves. So we don't want to encourage that kind of behavior when it comes to being at home. And when we talk about distance learning as well, ask them if there's anything within their entire week that's coming up that you need to plan for. Don't wait until the actual assignment is due the night before. Look ahead. We used to do that all the time when kids were going to school. With virtual, it's even harder because I don't know how St. Stephen's has set up for virtual, but with a lot of the other public schools, there's a million different places that you can go on their website to find assignments and tests and things. So it makes it difficult to figure out what's due and what's not due, okay? The other thing is when you are going to talk to your child and get them involved in everything, it has to be a family process. Don't make it as you took your child out and it's something where the child feels like they are in trouble and it's not in a helpful way that mom and dad aren't helping me. If there's older siblings in a house, get them to help out as well, okay? The other thing is when we talk about isolation, okay, when it comes to emotional, we went through the spiritual, we went through the physical. Now we're going to go through the emotional part, the isolation. One of the biggest things that we've seen is kids feeling like they can't connect with their friends. So let's talk about ways that they can connect. There can be Zoom calls besides the ones that we're doing for school that have to do with going and looking through museums. There can be Zoom calls that have to do with aquariums. There can be Zoom calls. And I've also had people who have come and said, let's sit out in the front yard, do social distancing. You bring your s'mores things, I'll bring my s'mores things, and we sit 6 feet apart and we let the kids see each other. Again, this all depends on how you and your family feel regarding the different levels of risk. Your children are doing very well at school. They are following directions. When I talk to the staff at St. Stephen's, they're following directions, they're wearing their masks, they're staying in line. So if you feel comfortable to take it to another level to where the kids are actually able to interact with their social distance, then do that. And this is where the caveat is. But if you are not, then when we go back and we talk about that isolation, there has to be a little bit of a give and take. Because right now, one of the only things that the children have that they can utilize is this, their phone or their iPad. When somebody asks me about the mental health of a child, we think current, but we also think long-term. Children are being not only bullied, but their validation comes from everyone else. If you are not allowing them to have friends, let them do the social interaction online. And a lot of the parents will say to me, well, but what is too much? We can't take our standards from pre-pandemic to now. If we did that, they wouldn't be communicating with any of their friends because normally they'd see their friends. But right now, if your child is doing great in school, if your child is doing okay at home, if the one thing that you're worried about is their social and maybe their social media and maybe their time online gaming, think about the give and take there, okay? We don't have to get them to a point where one of the questions I got was, my child is gonna be addicted. Let's reframe that for a second. Your child is doing what they're doing right now in the middle of a pandemic. We are all doing what we're doing right now and because of the pandemic. As your child starts to come out of the pandemic, and we are supplementing all this stuff with new activities and new things that they can do for their mental health, they're going to wean off of some of the things that they used as we'll call a crutch during the pandemic. It is not the worst thing in the world if your child is actually talking to friends online. And I'm saying that because there are children who do not have friends to reach out to. I did a lecture last weekend with teenagers, and a lot of them relayed to me that that was their only lifeline. And they don't want it taken away. The things that come after the pandemic, we will deal with after the pandemic. But right now, if your child's mental health is affected because of isolation, and you don't want to do the things that you can do with social distancing, you have to have a little bit of give and take. And you have to make sure that you are comfortable, but your child's mental health is not declining, because that's the number one thing that we have seen is suicides going up, self-harm behavior, and everything else that's come from not being able to connect with their friends. The other thing is, a lot of the kids that I've spoke to last weekend, when I spoke, it was about 100 teenagers, and I said, their biggest complaint was, my mom doesn't let me go on my social media, my mom. And when I said, well, are you doing this? Are you doing that? Are you getting all your stuff complete? Yes. Okay, well, and they said to me, you know what happens, Miss Sula? And I said, what? And they said, mom will say, let's sit down for a movie, get off your gaming, get off your thing. And what does mom do the minute that the movie goes on? She grabs her phone and starts texting. So what are you doing? Like I said, remember what I said, that energy in the house. What are you doing for your children when it comes to do as I say, not as I do? If you think about us as adults. When we've gone through this pandemic, we've needed that support from our friends. We've needed to stay in touch. We've needed to kind of text our friends and go, oh my gosh, this has been a really rough week because of this and this and this. They need that too. And I know within us, the electronics, yes, I understand, but we're not in that time period right now. We are in something we have never experienced before. And if the worst thing is that your child likes to connect with their friends, that is not the worst thing in my book as a therapist, okay? Like I said, if you have the bedtime routine that you're doing and you're getting your children up in the morning and they're going to bed at the right time, in between, give them a little leeway. This has been hard. Imagine how hard it is to be 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 15, 16. We've all had to deal with things that we've had to make adjustments for with our work and everything else. Don't take the one thing away from them. Because one of the fears that they have, all of these kids that are doing virtual or at home, or they're afraid when they finally all go back to school and they finally all go back to baseball and they finally all, that all of their friends are going to be reconnected and they're going to be the one person left out. And that's really the most important thing that comes out of this. I'm constantly saying your child's mental health is way more important than grades. And yes, grades are very, very important, but we want a child that is able to be resilient to things in life. We don't want a child that is going to be able to get their grades done, but literally cannot handle any kind of stress. I think that if you ease up, I've had a lot of parents who say, how much to ease up? Is it 2 hours? That's up to you. How long does it take for them to do their Zoom? Give them their breaks, let them do their homework. What really is that time? Is it from maybe 4 or 5 o'clock to 9 o'clock? They can be on and off and on and off and on and off. Because in reality, what would they be doing during that time? They would be going to sporting things. They would be going to any kind of church activities, anything like that, where they would be interacting with their friends. So if they can't interact with their friends, it's okay. Ease up a little bit with all of that social media and all of that. One of the other questions that I got was about, I'm going to pull it up here, how the parents are feeling. How are we going to help the children? Okay. When it comes to these things, intellectually, your child may not feel challenged when it comes to things that they're doing at school. Okay. They may feel like it's very mundane. And I don't know about St. Stephen's, but with other schools, some of the work that's done is done just for credit. Okay. That's why I'm saying take whatever it is that theme is and challenge your child every single week. Give them things that they can do at home with you. One of the number one complaints that I've gotten from children during this pandemic is my parents, and believe it or not, think about this. Most people are working from home. My parents are not spending enough time with me. That's the number one complaint I've gotten. Mom is on Zoom calls for this. Mom is working. Mom is doing this. Mom. Take some time and spend it with your child one-on-one. One of the things that you can do to assess your child's mental health is play with them. I have a lot of kids who will open up to their parents when they're playing because they're in a relaxed environment. It's a lot easier to open up to mom and dad when you're playing Legos with them, as opposed to them sitting you down at the kitchen table and trying to find out what's wrong with you. Children also express themselves, as you all know, with your lower levels kids, they express themselves through drawing and through arts. That's why when I said to you guys before about doing all the Pinterest stuff for their room and doing things to decorate and all that, that's a way of them expressing themselves. If something is wrong, you will know. You will know. It's almost like when there's something wrong in a child's mental health, it will come out either in their writing or their drawings at school or their schoolwork. We don't have that option right now with a lot of kids because they're home. So look at the things that you're doing at home. And if something comes out, know what your child well enough to know, what do I need to do about this? As far as Do I need to increase my time with them? Or is it something that I need to talk to a mental health professional about? If there's anything that the children do at home that you see that's negative or that continues as a pattern, get it taken care of right now. Talk to the school, see if there's anything that they're seeing, because the anxiety that the children are feeling, the isolation that they're feeling, the feeling that they can't control the world right now because of COVID is increasing everything else for kids. We have kids that have never felt feelings of being alone. The most social kids in the world are having the most difficult problems. The ones that have been the outcasts or anything like that, some of them are doing rather well right now because they're used to it. The kids that are having a really difficult time are the ones that normally are literally out 5 days a week doing some kind of extracurricular activity. And the other thing with that is, how are you projecting that onto your kids when it comes to giving them positive affirmation with that? You're doing a great job. I know this is hard for you. Or are you, oh my God, I can't believe we can't go here. I can't believe we can't go there. Come up with creative ideas to supplement everything else that they're doing in school, because school is their lifeline right now. If there is something that they want to do that you don't feel comfortable with them doing, explain it to them. That they're right now in the middle of a pandemic, we can't do certain things. And if they say, but mom, why can't we? Why can't we? Why can't we? Make sure that you let them know that this is temporary, especially for the little kids. And think about how your family has handled stress before. Are you doing it the same way this time? Are you able to talk to your kids in a way where you're saying there's light at the end of the tunnel? Are you playing up their strengths? Or are you focusing on all the negative? Our kids are not going to make perfect grades right now. They're going to do the best that they can. Just like us as parents, we are all kind of navigating through this without having any kind of map. The children are doing that as well. And the more that you can build resilience for them, the better they will be in the long run with these mental health issues. Some of the questions I got were as far as safety when it comes to sporting events and things like that. That's a personal preference. And again, this is where I said to you, this is one of the hardest things because every family is different. I am not going to tell you versus somebody else what your family should be comfortable with when it comes to sports. You yourself know your family. And if it's something that's a big part of your family, then you can come up with ways and follow CDC guidelines and everything else. But if you're not comfortable, again, think about what I keep saying. Use what you have. I have families that for family night all week, think about this and plan ahead. Like I said, you all, if you're anything like I was as a mom, stay-at-home mom and a working mom, when it came to birthdays and celebrations and field trips and things like that, parties for things at school, Christmas, we were all very good at planning those things. You just take that planning component and bring it into your home. So in other words, when the kids are thinking about things that they could do, what can you do to supplement all those little things at home since they can't go to their extracurricular activity? Okay. And when they're not able to do the extracurricular activity and you've done all the stuff that you can do at home, again, we're falling back on the stuff that's online. And it doesn't have to be completely 100% like, oh, they're FaceTiming. One of the parents said they're FaceTiming all the time, or they're on their Snapchat all the time. There are things you guys can do as families. One of the funniest things that your children will show you are TikTok videos. You don't have to let them have their own TikTok account. You don't have to let them post their own TikTok thing. But I'm telling you right now, that was one of the coping skills I talked to teens about last week. I said, do you go on TikTok with your family and do you watch the funny videos that are on there? I actually told kids, teenagers that were 16, 17, 18 years old, I want you to have your favorite videos loaded on your phone that are hilarious, Because then when you're having a stressful day, go to that video. YouTube, there is a YouTube Kids. Watch those things with your children. Remember when I talked to you about the theme? Think about the theme, whatever they're learning in school, okay? You can do an entire, very cheaply, besides doing the decorating the bedroom, besides cooking something that has to do with the theme, you can also do movies. If they're learning about the ocean, there's a million Disney movies you could watch about the ocean that week as a family. If they're learning about outer space, there's a million. In other words, if you plan ahead and you incorporate school life with home life, that's where you're going to get a successful child. If you don't do that, it's almost like what we've been doing the last however many months, where we're all kind of flailing and trying to figure it out. Your children are smarter than this. They can respond positively to this. You as parents, you can do this. Think about all the things that we've done up until COVID in our lives. All the things that we have overcome. It's very scary because it's our kids, and I get that. I'm a parent. And every time one of my children comes to me and says, Mom, I have to talk to you about something, my heart just goes, okay. But plan ahead. This will be your number one thing for the kids. Do things with them that they will feel like they're connected to you, they're connected to school, they're connected to their families, and their community. And like I said, it's okay if a couple things fall by the wayside. But remember the 4 things that I told you guys about: the physical, the intellectual, the emotional, and the spiritual. Those are the things right now that your child has to have balance with. Because what happens is when one of them goes downhill, the first thing that happens with a kid when they're having emotional problems, do they talk to their parents about it? No. It starts affecting their work. And from affecting their work, then it starts to affect everything else in their life. So when you're looking at your kids and you're looking at how they're accepting school assignments and how they're functioning with their friends, look at it as, how am I going to plan for their success? Give your kids some credit. They are very, very good at adapting, okay? Children are more adaptable than adults are, really, because they know, as you guys are gonna laugh, their attention span when it comes to certain things is not very long. So it's almost like when I talk to you guys about the anxiety and the distractions, think about a little toddler that's crying. When that toddler is crying, what do? We try to distract it with something positive to make them laugh or something. It's the same thing with the kids. Distract them from this pandemic because they have no control. What they have control over is their thoughts, their emotions, and their actions. So stick to those 3 things. Encourage them in a positive way that they can control those 3 things. And if you do that, they will be successful at all the other things. Finally, when it comes to family dynamics, don't let COVID rob you of your family traditions. If you have been in a situation now with your work where you have to work different hours or do something else, because part of this COVID thing is everybody's being hit financially, emotionally. There's a million ways. If you guys can't keep up all the family traditions like you used to do, like for instance, something as benign as Taco Tuesday, if you can't do that with your family because one person has to work or something has been taken away, replace it with something else and get the kids to talk about it and get the kids to figure out some kind of plan for their week so that they can say, well, you know what, we can't do this anymore. What can we do? And what I'm trying to shy away with is this balance of, we have to have it as there is hope because this is a temporary problem. But I don't want you to be so hopeful and so positive that in a month from now, if we're still in the same situation, your children are worse off mentally because now we go into what's called broken promises. Don't promise your children something that you can't keep. And right now with pandemic, there is nothing. As much as parents, we want to reassure our children, we can reassure them in a way where we're not promising something that we can't. In the future, yes, you're going to be able to see your friend. You're going to be able to go back to sports. But right now, what can we do in order to keep the connections going and still feel like we're doing something for our children? The other thing is, when you're talking to your partner, if there is something that comes up within your relationship, because both of you are having issues, don't don't let the children hear about it. Your children are home 24 hours a day right now sometimes. They can hear things. They can detect moods. They can keep all of that stuff private. When you're going to talk to children at the youngest age, only give out little bits of information that they need to know, number one. Do not give out anything where it can be a little bit ambiguous, because anxiety feeds on the unknown. It's the number one phrase I say to my clients: anxiety feeds on the unknown. The more unknown a child has about some ambiguous thing, the more anxiety they're going to have. Focus on what's going on today. Don't do the pie in the sky next week, tomorrow, 6 months from now. With teenagers, they're old enough to understand. Middle school kids are old enough to understand. They're learning about it in school. They're seeing about it in videos. Talk to them and explain to them why we have the rules that we have versus other people. And you will see that they may ask questions, but teenagers are a lot more mature than what you think. They can handle things, and they handle things that you don't even know about. Peer pressure, things from school. They've all had, when I gave my lecture last week, I literally said, I know you all have had somebody who's thought about committing suicide or self-harming or this or that. And I could tell by the looks of their faces which ones. They've all gone through some hard times. We can't protect them from everything going on in the world right now, but what we can do is we can make it a little bit more comfortable by incorporating their virtual world into their world at their home. And then you'll see your anxiety de-escalate. And you'll see the anxiety for your parents de-escalate too, because when we see our children happy and we see them engaged and doing those things, then it also makes us feel a little bit better and not so guilty that we're either leaving work or on Zoom meetings all day. That's all I have. Is there anyone? We are at, what time are we at? 9:51. So,
I have a
yeah,
quick question.
yes.
So you talked about we have all different levels of parents and students, and all the way from lower school to high school students.
Hmm.
And one of the things is that I know that there are a lot of different coping strategies for each level of children with their parents. Um, how are there any strategies for how to make it more cohesive with schools and parents with regards to their children? So if their parents are given a certain set of rules or certain set of coping skills at home, how do they translate to school and vice versa? So that a child that feels safe at school who might not feel safe at home, or vice versa, how do we make it more cohesive to protect that child in all of those levels, both at home and at school?
With all children, there are always people at school that are their favorite teacher, their favorite counselor, their favorite this, their favorite that. We call it in therapy, they're like star coaches. Okay. Incorporate the star coaches into finding out what is going on at school and what is going on at home, in order to have that balance where whatever's going on at home is going on at school. So then that way, if the child is having a problem at school, they're able to communicate this to one of those people. Okay. Because what happens is we do have a lot of people right now that, and I hope it's none of your children at your school, where they really want to go to school because their home environment is unsafe, you know, and us as people within the field, there's only so many things that we can do as far as keeping that child safe when they're at school. And we can definitely encourage certain strategies at home and encourage healthy, like I said, emotional, intellectual, spirit. We can encourage all of that. But once the child gets home, it's whatever happens at home. When you have a connection between, and that's why I was saying it was so important to do whatever you're doing at school, bring it into the home, because it makes the child feel that both of the areas that they're safe in. Because if they feel great at school, let's say it's for a child that's at school, if they feel safe at school and they come home and mom is completely panicked about everything, it's going to raise their anxiety. And what's that going to do? They're going to go back to school and they're going to have this heightened level of anxiety that, oh my gosh, I'm going to go back home and I'm going to give my grandpa COVID and all this stuff is going to happen and my grandpa's going to die. And that's why I'm saying to the parents, go by whatever it is that's really going on. Don't do the what if, because I guarantee you your child's what if takes them down a much darker hole than your what if, because children feel that weight. So that's why I'm saying we have to incorporate the two things together. Everyone has to be on the same page. The best thing is communication between the school and the parents. And it sounds, from everything you guys have told me, it sounds like you all are doing a really good job and the kids should be commended for that. And that's why the thing that I was going to end with after the questions was, my challenge to you guys is go home and reassess the 4 areas that I told you about. Reassess: emotional, intellectual, spiritual, and physical. Just because I'm a therapist doesn't mean my family life is 100%. I'm sure that there's room for improvement with my kids too. Go home and go, where can we improve this? Think about your child in the past. What have they done well with? Pre-pandemic, what have been those great things where, God, my kid is really good at that. My kid is really good at that. Okay? And take that and incorporate it into those areas and say, he can do better here and here, but he really does really well here, because the kids are so tired of listening to, you didn't do this on time for school, you didn't do this, why weren't you on your Zoom call, and arguing with mom back and forth about I was and I couldn't click on and blah, 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 and all this and I uploaded my assignment, this and that. Take a mental inventory of your whole family life. And when I say this, yes, we're talking about the kids, but I challenge you in 3 different ways. Us as parents, how are we doing with those 4 areas? Your family as a whole, how are you doing with those 4 areas? And then your child, how are they doing individually with those 4 areas? Where can we do some tweaks? And then you'll start to see some better behavior and some more success. But always remember what I just said to you guys. What was the number 1 thing the kids told me last week? Yeah, they don't want me on my phone, or they don't want me on my electronic, but mom's on her phone all night till midnight, or she's on her Zoom call. That's the thing that kids notice. So whatever you're doing for yourself, make sure it's consistent with everybody else.
Sula, thank you so much. We really appreciate your expertise and everything that you've shared with us. You've given us some great tools, and I personally took a lot of notes and looking to reevaluate some things with my own family and kids. So thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you all for having me.
Thank you. To all of you parents who had joined us today, I want to commend you for taking the time out. As Sula mentioned when we first started our meeting, we have COVID fatigue, we have Zoom fatigue. So I know we're all very excited to start to get back to the way things used to be, but to take the time out is awesome. So thank you for doing that. I would like to share and mention that we have recorded this meeting today. It will be posted on Monday next week on our Parents Association portal. So if you go to SSCS Online, go to the Parents Association portal under resources, you will find it there. If you choose to share it with anyone, you can do that. If you hear anybody asking if it was recorded, the answer is yes, and that's where they'll find it. So please point people in that direction. I'd also like to take a quick moment to just mention a few things that the Parents Association has coming up on our calendar. It's just a good time while I have a few captive parents here. I won't take long, I promise. I'd like to mention that Wednesday, March 17th, which is a conference day for our students, families, faculty, that we will host a faculty appreciation event. We're going to do what we did back in the fall, which was have the teachers order and staff order lunch of their choice from the options and places we give them. We'll make sure that it's there so they can grab it socially distanced and go have a nice lunch. So we're excited to be able to bring that to our faculty and staff again on March 17th. Friday, March 26th, our lower school and intermediate school, with the help of the Parents Association, are going to do a spring field day. There will be information coming home to the lower and intermediate school families about this, and it's just something that will be in lieu of our spring fling. Since we're not going to do that this year, it's a fun way for our kids to get out there and have some fun this spring and have a beach theme. So Friday, March 26th for that. Wednesday, April 21st, we'll have our Parents Association General Membership Meeting. It will be the last one that we'll have for the school year, so I would encourage you all to attend. That will be via Zoom, and information and links will be coming out about that. And then finally on the calendar, I'm sorry? Okay, sorry, I thought somebody else was trying to add in. So we'll have a Zoom link for the general membership meeting. Saturday, May 1st, we have a golf tournament coming up to raise money for our athletics program. We're very excited to do that again in a socially distanced outdoor fashion, and just bring some folks together and have some fun. We'll hold it at the River Club Golf Course Saturday, May 1st, and you'll all start seeing information coming out to you about that and how to get involved. And then finally, I just want to mention that our nominations committee has started seeking volunteers to fill our positions for the upcoming school year for all of the great volunteer opportunities we have within the Parents Association. And so you'll also be seeing information about that. That committee is being chaired by Dana Gerling, and Dana has a committee of people working on seeking people. I'd like to just run down the list of opportunities that we'll have to pique your interest, and then I hope that you'll get online again in the Parents Association section and take a look at what those opportunities are in more detail. We are seeking the roles of a president and vice president. We are looking for a treasurer-elect and an upper school lead parent. Those 4 positions are on the executive board within the Parents Association. For committee chair roles, we're looking for a community rewards person, a faculty appreciation co-chair, a family connections person, Grandparents' Day co-chair, another person to help out in our lower school, intermediate school campus center library. We're looking for a social media chair, a Spring Fling co-chair, and a volunteer relations coordinator. I know those are a bunch of titles, but I assure you we have all the details and information and descriptions about what is involved with each one of those roles. And that again will be posted on the PA portal on SSCS Online. If you have questions, anything piques your interest, please reach out to Dana Gerling or myself or Angela Munson, and we can all point you in the right direction to answer some questions for you. So thank you for letting me take a few moments to chat about that. Just again, while I have a few of you here, I thought it would be great to mention. We appreciate you all again for being here, and please don't hesitate to reach out if you need anything from your Parents Association. On behalf of Dr. Pullen and Sula, just thank you again for being here. Have a great day.
Thank you.